He got into the car without a word. Sky glanced at him in the mirror and smiled.
Good evening.
Good evening. How's your... Aish? He rubbed his temple like her voice physically hurt him. She paused. He stared out the window. I booked this ride for silence, to think, to breathe. His eyes slid to hers in the mirror, cold, sharp. Not to listen to a parrot? Her smile vanished. Excuse me? You talk, he said flatly, like a bird that forgot when to stop. Her jaw dropped. Did you just call me a parrot? In my own car? It fits. He didn't blink. If you came with a remote, I would have hit mute the second you opened your mouth. Her hands tightened on the wheel. Okay, listen here, Mr. Funeral Suit. You booked my Uber, not a library. You want silence? She met his eyes in the mirror. Buy yourself a coffin and climb in. Silence. He turned, fully, looked at her. Really looked. Not amused, but hooked. Hey, family. Before this story begins, I want you to do something real quick. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Your comments fuel these stories. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button because what happens next will leave you speechless. He turned back to the window like she no longer existed. Sky scoffed quietly and pulled back into traffic. Great, she muttered. Another charming customer. She turned the radio on. He flinched. She saw it in the mirror and smiled to herself. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. She switched stations, some soft pop, then jazz, then an old-school love song. His jaw tightened. Oh, she said sweetly, you don't like music either? Let me guess. You prefer the sound of your own dramatic thoughts. No response. She kept driving. 2 minutes passed, then 3. The silence in the car grew heavy, thick, like a challenge. Sky was not the type to lose a challenge. So, she said, cheerfully, do you always insult people before saying hello, or am I just special? Nothing. She glanced at him in the mirror. He sat perfectly still, eyes on the city lights, like he was carved out of ice. Huh, she went on. Strong, silent type. Let me guess, you're either a spy, a billionaire, or someone who forgot how to socialize in 2008. He didn't even blink. She shrugged. Okay, I tried. She focused on the road for about 30 seconds. Then she said, you know, I once had a guy who tried to pay me to listen to him breathe for 20 minutes. You're still not the weirdest passenger I've had. His fingers twitched. She saw it. Her lips curved. Good. Han Tae-hyun had spent the entire day in meetings, endless voices, endless arguments, endless people wanting something from him. He had left his driver and security on purpose. He needed 1 quiet hour. 1. And somehow he had ended up in a car driven by a woman who talked like silence, offended her personally. Are you done? He asked coldly. She looked at him, surprised. Oh, you do speak. I asked, he said, if you were done. With what? With all of this. He gestured vaguely as if her entire existence was the problem. She laughed, actually laughed. Sir, you ordered a ride, not a mute button. He stared at her. Do you always talk this much? Only when people are rude, she replied, and when they look like they're about to bite someone. I am not rude, she snorted. You called me a parrot. A very accurate observation. She shook her head. Wow, and here I was thinking today couldn't get any better. Then stop talking. No. The word came out light, playful, but firm. He frowned slightly. You're very bold for someone who works in customer service. And you're very grumpy for someone in a suit that probably costs more than my car. His eyes flicked, briefly to the cracked dashboard, then back to her. This car, he said, is modest. Hey, she said, mildly offended. She has a name. He paused. Your car? Yes, don't judge her. I wasn't. You were. He went silent again. She waited. 5 seconds. 10. She sighed. You know, you're really bad at this whole being mysterious thing. You just look constipated. That did it. His eyes snapped to hers in the mirror. What did you say? She smiled innocently. I said you look like you're holding in a very serious thought. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, to his own surprise, something strange happened. The corner of his mouth twitched, just a little. He turned away quickly, annoyed with himself. Skye noticed. She grinned. "Oh, there it is. You do have a face under all that funeral energy." "Watch the road," he said. "I am. Properly. Still am. Both hands." She lifted both hands for half a second and then grabbed the wheel again. "Happy? Immature?" he muttered. "Chronically," she agreed. They drove in silence again. But it wasn't the same kind of silence. Skye stole glances at him in the mirror. He was interesting. Not handsome in a pretty way, more like sharp, clean, dangerous looking in a very expensive, untouchable way. The kind of man people probably moved out of the way for. "So," she said, "what do you do?" "That's none of your business." "Ouch! Okay, then what do you do for fun?" He didn't answer. She nodded. "Let me guess. You stare into the distance and judge humanity." He exhaled slowly through his nose. She laughed. "I'm kidding. Mostly." They reached a red light. She stopped. He checked his phone, then frowned. "You missed a turn." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." She looked at the GPS. "Nope, this way is faster." He looked at her. "I prefer the other route." "Then you should have said so earlier." "I am saying it now." "Well," she said cheerfully, "we're already committed, like a bad relationship." He stared at her. "You're very—" He paused, searching for the word. "Annoying?" she offered. Persistent." "Thank you." That was not a compliment. "I'll survive." They drove on. Something about her presence irritated him, and something about it unsettled him. He wasn't used to people talking to him like this, or looking at him like he was just a man, not a title, not a threat, not a king. Just a very grumpy customer in the back seat of an Uber. When they finally reached the destination, she pulled over. "That'll be $28.50, she said. He handed her his card. She took it, then paused, then looked at him, then looked at the card again. Her eyes widened just a fraction before she caught herself. "Wow," she said carefully. "Either you're very rich or very committed to pretending to be." He took the card back from her hand before she could think too much about it. "Keep the change," he said. She blinked. "There is no change." "Exactly." He opened the door, then stopped. He looked back at her. "You are exhausting." She smiled brightly. "And you're welcome." He hesitated for half a second, then stepped out and closed the door. Skye watched him walk away. "Rude," she muttered, "but interesting." She didn't notice that he stopped across the street and looked back at her car. For a long moment, Han Tai-hyun stood across the street longer than he intended. He told himself he was only checking his phone. He told himself he was waiting for his assistant to call. He told himself he was doing nothing at all. But his eyes kept drifting back to the small, slightly battered car pulling away from the curb. The driver, Skye, was already arguing with someone on her Bluetooth, judging by the way she gestured wildly and rolled her eyes. She was loud, annoying, unnecessary, and somehow she had been the most real conversation he'd had in weeks. He frowned and turned away. Ridiculous. He stepped into his building and the world immediately snapped back into place. Chairman Han. "Good evening, sir. Your meeting was moved to tomorrow." "Yes," he said. Everything was quiet, controlled, predictable, the way he liked it. And yet, when he got into his private elevator, the silence felt heavier than usual. Skye, meanwhile, was still muttering to herself 10 minutes later. "Parrot," she scoffed. "The nerve." She dropped off her next passenger, then the next. But her mind kept going back to Mr. Funeral Suit and his permanently offended face. There had been something strange about him. Not creepy, not bad, just intense. And that card. She shook her head. None of my business. She had bills to think about, her mom's medication, her rent, her very dramatic, very unreliable life. Rich, grumpy strangers were not on her list of priorities. Her phone buzzed. New ride request. She accepted without looking. "All right," she said, pulling up. "Let's see what kind of adventure you—" She stopped. He was standing there. Same suit, same cold face, same aura of "I do not belong in your world." She blinked. Once. Twice. "You," she said. He opened the door and got in. "Yes, unfortunately." She stared at him in the mirror. "You ordered another ride." "Yes. On purpose." "Yes." She laughed. "Wow. Either you really missed me or you're a masochist." "Drive," he said. She shrugged and pulled into traffic. "So," she said, "did you come back to apologize for calling me a bird, or are you here for round 2? "I am here because you are the closest driver." "Mm-hmm. And I'm the Queen of England." He ignored her. They drove for about a minute in silence. Then she said, "You know, normal people say hello." He said nothing. She sighed. "Okay, fine. Be mysterious. It's working great for you." He closed his eyes briefly. "Do you ever stop talking? Do you ever stop scowling?" He opened his eyes. "Where did you learn to be like this?" "Public transport." He looked at her. She grinned. "And life." They reached another red light. He glanced at her, then looked away. "You are very comfortable," he said. "With what?" "With speaking to strangers." She shrugged. "Strangers are easier. They don't expect much." Something in her tone made him look at her again, but she had already put her cheerful mask back on. "Besides," she added, "silence makes things awkward." "I like silence." "Of course you do." They drove on. This time, the silence felt less sharp. When they reached his destination, he got out again. She said, "Try not to insult any innocent drivers tonight." He paused, then said, "You started it." She laughed. "Wow, progress." He walked away. Again, and again he stopped and looked back. The next day he ordered another ride, and another, and another. Always her. Skye noticed by the third time. "Okay," she said, when he got in for the 4th time in 2 days. "Either you're stalking me or this is destiny." "Neither," he said. "I simply prefer consistency." "Uh-huh. Sure you do. You are tolerable." She gasped. "Wow, I've been promoted." He almost smiled. Almost. By the end of the week, it had become a pattern. He would book her car. They would bicker. He would pretend she didn't get under his skin. She would pretend she didn't look forward to seeing his name pop up on her screen. One evening, she said, "You know, you're my weirdest regular." "I am not weird. You use Uber like it's a personal diary. That is not—" "And you sit in the back like a depressed movie villain." He closed his eyes. "Please stop talking." "No." He exhaled slowly, but he didn't cancel the ride. One night, it was raining. Hard. She picked him up outside a building she had never seen before. Tall, intimidating, guards, lots of guards. She raised an eyebrow. "You live in a fortress now?" He got in and shut the door. "Drive." As they pulled away, she glanced in the mirror. "Okay, I have to ask. Are you a celebrity or something?" "No." "A secret agent?" "No." "A very dramatic accountant?" He said nothing. She smiled. "I'm going to assume you're a superhero." "That is ridiculous." "Yeah, you do look more like a villain." He didn't respond, but when she stopped at a red light, she saw his reflection in the mirror. He was smiling. Just a little. Something shifted that night. The arguments became lighter. The silences became comfortable. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes he told her small things. Nothing important. Nothing personal. But more than he had told anyone in a long time. And sometimes she talked about her day, her crazy passengers, her mom, her life. He listened. He always listened. One night she said, "Why do you always book me?" He looked out the window. "Because you don't treat me differently." She blinked, then smiled softly. "Well," she said, "you're welcome, Mr. Mystery." But secrets don't stay secrets forever. And one afternoon, Skye pulled up to a hotel for a pickup. She saw the name. Her stomach tightened. She looked at the building, then at the guards, then at the men in suits, then at him. He got in like always, but this time she was looking at him differently. "Hey," she said slowly, "you didn't tell me you were important." He went still. "What do you mean?" She nodded toward the building. "People like that don't hold doors for just anyone." He said nothing. And for the first time, Skye realized she might not know this man at all. Skye noticed it on the 5th ride. Not the first, not the second, but the 5th. She had just dropped him off in front of another quiet, expensive-looking building when she said, half joking, "You know, if I start charging rent, you might as well move into my back seat." He paused before getting out, then said, "You are consistently available." She raised an eyebrow. "Wow, you make loyalty sound like a medical condition." He got out and closed the door. She watched him walk away and shook her head. Weird man. But when her phone buzzed an hour later and his name popped up again, she frowned. "Okay," she muttered. "Now you're doing it on purpose." She accepted the ride. When he got in, she said, immediately, "Let me guess. You like my car?" "No." "My driving?" "No." "My charming personality?" He looked at her in the mirror. "You are predictable." She snorted. "That's not the insult you think it is." He said nothing more, but he stayed, and he kept booking her. Han Tai-hyun was aware of what he was doing. He did not pretend it was coincidence. He did not pretend it was fate. He told himself it was efficient. He knew her route style. He knew her car. He knew she did not talk to him like an employee, a subordinate, or a man who could ruin her life with one word. That made the ride uncomplicated. Still, he did not like the question that kept appearing in his mind. Why do I keep choosing this driver? He dismissed it as habit. 3 days later, Skye found a silver cufflink on the back seat. She held it up between 2 fingers. Huh, fancy. She thought about throwing it into her glove compartment and forgetting about it. Then she sighed and took a picture of it. She sent it through the app chat. "You forgot something in my car." The reply came almost immediately. "I will request a ride." She stared at the screen. "You don't have to. I can drop it at a police station or something. I will request a ride." She rolled her eyes. "Of course you will." 10 minutes later, he got into the car. She held up the cufflink. "You rich people really do shed parts." He took it. "It is not cheap. Neither is my time. Yet you keep driving. So do you." They stared at each other in the mirror for a second. Then she looked away and started driving. "Where to?" she asked. "Anywhere," he said. She glanced at him. "That's not how addresses work." "Just drive," she sighed. "Fine, but if we end up in a river, I'm haunting you." They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then she said, "So? This is the part where you say thank you for returning your fancy jewelry." "Thank you." She blinked. "Wow, that was painless. Do not get used to it." Too late. They reached a small convenience store. She pulled over. "I'm grabbing water. You want anything? Or do you survive purely on bitterness?" He looked at her. "Coffee." She raised an eyebrow. "You do drink human things." She got out. He hesitated, then got out too. They stood outside the car for the first time like this, not arguing, not separated by glass and mirrors, just 2 people waiting. She handed him the coffee. He took it. Their fingers brushed. Nothing dramatic happened, but both of them noticed. "Don't worry," she said lightly. "I don't charge extra for near-death experiences." That was not... I'm kidding. He took a sip of coffee, frowned. "It is bad." She grinned. "That's what you get for ordering gas station coffee." They stood there for another moment. Then he said, "You work too. Much." She looked at him. "You spy on all your drivers?" "I observe." "Creepy. Accurate." She shrugged. "Bills don't pay themselves." He studied her face for a second. "You look tired. And you look like you disapprove of sunlight." They got back into the car. He said nothing else, but the silence was less sharp. That night, Skye went home and found her mother sitting on the couch, looking pale. "Did you eat?" Skye asked. "I wasn't hungry." Sky went into the kitchen, checked the medicine, checked the calendar, and felt the familiar knot in her chest tighten. The next appointment was soon, too soon, and she still didn't have enough. 2 days later, Han Tae-hyun booked her again, and this time, halfway through the ride, he said, "Your car is making a noise." She listened. "Yeah, it's been doing that." "You should fix it." She laughed. "Thank you, sir. I'll just pull a new engine out of my pocket." He looked at her. "It is unsafe." "I'll survive." "You shouldn't have to." She glanced at him. "You always this concerned about random people?" "No." "Then relax. This random person is fine." He said nothing. But later that evening, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It rang again. She sighed and answered. "Hello. This is Mr. Han's assistant." She closed her eyes. "No." "Excuse me?" "Whatever you're about to say, the answer is no." There was a pause. "Mr. Han would like to order an Uber," she finished. "He knows how to do that." "This is not about a ride." "Then it's not about me." She hung up. Her heart was beating too fast. She didn't like this. The next time Han Tae-hyun got into her car, she said immediately, "Tell your assistant to stop calling me." He looked at her. He should not have done that. "So it was your idea." "Yes," she sighed. "You can talk to me here, like a normal person." He nodded. "That is acceptable." Good. They drove. After a while, he said, "I do not intend to interfere in your life." "Then don't. I simply prefer order." She laughed. "Then you picked the wrong driver." He almost smiled. Almost. That night, Sky went to bed worried about money, and Han Tae-hyun went to bed annoyed at himself, because despite everything he told himself, he had already decided he would book her again. Han Tae-hyun's world did not run on chance. It ran on schedules, decisions, and silence. His black car waited where it always waited. His driver stood where he always stood. His men moved when he moved, and the city moved out of his way. "Tomorrow's board meeting is at 9, his assistant said as Tae-hyun got into the back seat. "The Busan issue has not been resolved." "It will be," Tae-hyun replied. The car pulled away. He looked out the window, watching the city slide past. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. A ride app notification. He frowned, annoyed. He closed it. This was not a day for distractions. Sky's day started badly and went downhill from there. Her mom's pharmacy had called. The car made a worse noise than usual, and her landlord had left a note that was not friendly. She sat in her car and stared at the steering wheel. "Okay," she muttered. "One thing at a time." She went to the mechanic first. He listened to the engine, shook his head, and said a number that made her stomach drop. "That's a robbery," she said. "That's an engine," he replied. She laughed weakly. "Great. I'll just tell it to heal itself." She left without fixing it. She didn't have a choice. That afternoon, Han Tae-hyun sat in a glass meeting room while men argued. He listened. He decided. He ended it. When he stood, the room stood. When he left, the room exhaled. In the hallway, his assistant walked beside him. "Sir, the investment in..." "Cancel it." "Yes, sir." They reached the elevator. Tae-hyun paused, then said, "Find out how much it costs to replace a small car engine." The assistant blinked. "Sir?" "Do it." "Yes, sir." Sky was driving carefully that evening. Too carefully. Every strange sound made her flinch. She dropped off a passenger and pulled over for a second, resting her head on the steering wheel. "Just survive this week," she whispered. "That's all." Her phone buzzed. A ride request. She almost ignored it. Then she saw the pickup location. A very familiar, very expensive building. She sighed. Of course. When she pulled up, she didn't see him at first. Then the black car stopped in front of the building. 2 men got out. Then he did. Han Tae-hyun. Not in her back seat. In his world. In his element. He didn't look like a grumpy customer now. He looked like someone people were afraid to disappoint. She swallowed. He didn't look at her. He got into his own car. It drove away. She sat there, strangely unsettled. Okay, she muttered. Why did that feel like getting ignored by a celebrity? She shook it off and accepted another ride. 2 days later, her car finally gave up, right in the middle of traffic. She pulled over, heart pounding, and tried to restart it. Nothing. A man behind her honked, then another. She put her head back and groaned. Of course. She called a tow truck. Then she called her mom and lied and said everything was fine. Then she sat there and waited. Han Tae-hyun was in his car when his assistant said, "Sir, the information you requested." "Speak. The average cost is high, but manageable." "Good." He looked at the city again. Then, without really planning to, he said, "Find Sky Williams." The EE assistant hesitated. "The driver?" "Yes." "Is there a problem?" "No." "Then why?" "Because I asked." "Yes, sir." Sky was at home when there was a knock on her door. She frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. She opened it a little and saw a man in a suit. "Sky Williams?" "Yes. I'm here from HJ Motors." She blinked. "From where?" "Your car is being towed to our partner workshop. The repairs will be covered." She stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" He checked his tablet. "Everything is already arranged." "By who?" He hesitated. "By a client." "What client?" "I'm not at liberty to say." She closed the door a little. "Then I'm not at liberty to agree." He looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, the car is already on the truck." She rushed outside. Her car was being towed. Hey, that's my car!" The man said calmly, "It will be returned in 2 days, fully, repaired." She stood there, stunned, then angry. She knew exactly who had done this. She waited 2 days, then she booked a ride. She booked him. When he got into her car, she didn't say hello. She said, "You paid for my car." He looked at her. It needed repair. "That was not your decision to make." "It was efficient." She turned the wheel sharply. "You do not get to fix my life without asking." "I did not fix your life. You fixed my car." He looked at her. "You could not afford it." She went quiet for a second, then said, "That is not the point." "What is the point?" "The point," she said, "is that I didn't ask for your help." He said calmly, "You needed it." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "No, you don't." They drove in silence. Then she said quieter, "I don't want to owe you." "You don't." "Yes, I do." He looked at her. "Consider it a loan." She glanced at him. "With interest?" "No." "Then what do you want?" He paused. "Nothing." She didn't believe him, and he didn't like that he couldn't explain it better. That night, Sky lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and Han Tae-hyun sat in his apartment staring at the city. Both of them were thinking the same thing. This is getting complicated, but neither of them stepped away. Sky did not sleep well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her car being towed away like it had been kidnapped by rich people. She hated that. She hated even more that she was grateful. She drove the next morning in silence, the engine smooth and quiet like it had never tried to die on her before. "Traitor," she muttered, patting the steering wheel. "You were supposed to make a dramatic noise so I could stay mad." Her phone buzzed. A ride request from him. She stared at it for a full 5 seconds. Then she declined. Her phone buzzed again. Same name. She declined again. It buzzed a 3rd time. She accepted. When he got in, she didn't look at him. "I'm not thanking you," she said as she pulled into traffic. "I did not ask you to." "You also didn't ask me before playing secret hero. I solved a problem. You created a new one." He said nothing. She gripped the wheel. "I don't like owing people, especially people who don't explain themselves." It was not charity. Then what was it? Practical. She laughed without humor. "You really think you can throw money at things and call it practical?" He looked at her. "It is how problems are usually solved." "Not mine." They drove in silence. Then he said, "How much can you repay every month?" She glanced at him. "You're serious about the loan?" "Yes." "Good, because I'm paying you back. Every single cent." He nodded. "That is Acceptable. She hesitated. No interest? No. That's suspicious. I do not need interest. Then why bother? He looked out the window. Because I do not like broken systems. She snorted. I'm not a system. No, but your car is. 2 days later, she transferred the first payment. It was small. Embarrassingly small. She stared at the receipt for a long time before sending it. Then she sent a message. First payment. I'm not a charity case. The reply came 10 minutes later. Noted. That annoyed her more than if he'd argued. Han Tae-hyun told himself the matter was closed. Problem solved. System stabilized. End of story. Except, it wasn't. He found himself checking the transfer receipt again later that night, then closing it, then checking it again. Irritating. Sky's life did not suddenly become easier. The car was fixed, yes. But the bills were still there. Her mom still needed care. Her landlord still wanted his money on time. She picked up more rides, came home later, smiled less. He noticed. Your driving is more aggressive, he said one evening. That's what happens when life charges extra. You should rest. You should stop giving advice. They went quiet again. Then she said, Why did you really do it? Do what? The car. He paused. Because it was inefficient for you to keep driving like that. That's still not a real answer. He looked at her. It is the only one you're getting. A week later, Sky's mother collapsed in the kitchen. Not dramatically, not like in movies, just sat down and couldn't get back up. Sky rushed her to the hospital in a neighbor's car. They admitted her. They ran tests. They asked questions. They asked for deposits. Sky stood at the counter and felt her chest tighten. She called 3 people. None of them picked up. She looked at her phone, then closed her eyes, then opened the ride app. She didn't book a ride. She opened the chat and stared at his name for a long time. Then she closed it. I can do this, she whispered. Han Tae-hyun was in a meeting when his assistant leaned in and whispered something. He frowned. What do you mean? She's at the hospital? She asked for an emergency loan from her bank. It was denied. He stood. The room fell silent. Postpone everything, he said. Sky was arguing with the billing clerk when a man in a suit walked up to the counter. Excuse me, he said. This has been taken care of. She turned. What? The clerk looked at the screen. Yes, the deposit has been paid. Sky felt cold. By who? The man hesitated. A sponsor. There is no sponsor. There is now. She knew. She didn't even have to ask. She sat down hard in a chair, angry, relieved, ashamed, all at once. That evening, Han Tae-hyun came to the hospital, himself. Not in her car, not as a passenger, as himself. She saw him from the end of the hallway, tall, calm, untouchable. Her heart started beating faster. She stood up and walked toward him. Did you pay the hospital? She asked. Yes. I told you I don't want charity. It is not charity. Then what is it with you and fixing my life? He looked at her. Your mother needed care. That's not your responsibility. She is important to you. She stared at him. Why do you care? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Because I do not like problems left unresolved. She laughed bitterly. You're unbelievable. And you are stubborn. They stood there staring at each other. Finally, she said, Add it to the loan. He nodded. I already did. She swallowed. I will pay you back. I know. That night, Sky sat beside her mother's bed, and for the first time in a long time, she cried. Not loudly, not in front of anyone, just quietly. Han Tae-hyun sat in his car outside the hospital for a long time. He told himself he had only done what was logical, efficient, necessary. But the truth was, the problem was no longer just her car. Sky did not like hospitals. They smelled like fear and cleaning chemicals and bad news. She spent 2 nights sleeping in a chair beside her mother's bed. When her mother finally woke up properly, Sky tried to smile like everything was fine. Why do you look like you fought a bear? her mother asked weakly. Small bear, Sky said, very rude. Her mother studied her face. Someone helped you. Sky hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Who? A friend. It was the first time she had used that word for him, and it felt strange in her mouth. Han Tae-hyun did not go to see her again. He told himself it would complicate things. He told himself he had already done more than necessary. He told himself he should step back, so he did. For 3 days. He sent his assistant instead. Flowers quietly delivered, no card. The hospital bills were handled. Quietly. He did not show his face. Sky noticed. Of course she noticed. She also noticed the men. They were not always the same, but they were always there. Standing too straight. Watching too carefully. She saw one of them speak into his sleeve once. Her stomach tightened. When her mother was discharged, Sky felt like she could finally breathe again, until she saw the black car across the street and the 2 men standing beside it. Her heart started beating faster. She turned slowly. Han Tae-hyun stepped out of the car, not as a passenger, not as a customer, as himself, powerful, untouchable, dangerous. You didn't have to come, she said. Yes, I did. He nodded to his men. They took the luggage from the nurse. Sky stiffened. I can carry my own things. No? Then why does it feel like I can't breathe? She wanted to ask. They walked to the car. Her mother looked at him with curious eyes. And who is this handsome, serious-looking young man? She asked. Sky froze. He's a friend, Tae-hyun said calmly. Sky shot him a look. Her mother smiled. You have very serious friends. He inclined his head politely. They drove in silence. Sky sat in the back with her mother. Tae-hyun sat in front. The car was too quiet, too big, too expensive. Her world felt very small inside it. When they reached her building, 2 men got out first and looked around before opening the doors. Sky noticed. Her hands clenched. This is unnecessary, she said. It is normal, he replied. For who? Presidents? For me. Her mother looked between them. Are you in trouble, Sky? Sky forced a smile. No, Mom. He's just dramatic. Tae-hyun did not deny it. That night, after her mother was settled, Sky went back downstairs. He was still there, standing near the car, alone this time. Are you done playing bodyguard? She asked. He looked at her. You are angry. I'm uncomfortable. That is different. No, it's not. She crossed her arms. Who are those men? My security. Why do you need security? He looked at her for a long moment, then said, because some people do not like me. That's not an answer. It is the only one you're getting. She sighed. You live like this all the time? Yes. Doesn't it get exhausting? No. That's sad. He said nothing. The next few days were strange. He did not book her car. Not once. She noticed. She hated that she noticed. She told herself it was good, better, cleaner, safer. But her life did not become calmer. If anything, it became more stressful. Because now she was aware that he was not just a rich, weird man. He was something else, something heavier. One evening, she was driving a passenger when she saw the black car again. It was parked across the street. Her chest tightened. The passenger got out. She sat there for a second, then drove away. Her phone buzzed. Message. Are you free? She stared at it, then typed, Depends. Is this another surprise rescue mission? The reply came almost immediately. No, just coffee. She hesitated. Then, where? A normal place. She snorted and sent, You don't do normal. 3 dots. I am trying. They met at a quiet cafe. No security inside. But she saw them outside. Of course she did. He stood when she walked in. She sat. Your men are subtle, she said. They are not here for you. That's worse. He ignored that. Your mother? She's sleeping, and she's fine. Good. They ordered coffee. She watched him, really watched him. In this place, without his car, without his silence, he looked almost normal. Almost. "Why are you really helping me?" she asked. He stirred his coffee. "I told you, I do not like unresolved problems." "And I told you I'm not a problem." He looked at her. "You are. An inefficient situation." She laughed despite herself. "Wow, you really know how to make a girl feel special." "That was not my intention." "I know." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she said quietly, "Your world scares me." He looked at her. "It should." She swallowed. "That's not comforting." "It is honest." When he walked her back to her car, one of his men moved. Too fast. Too sharp. Sky flinched. Tae-hyun turned instantly. "Stand down," he said quietly. The man froze and stepped back. Sky stared at him. "Does that happen often?" she asked. "No, but it could. Yes." She nodded slowly. "Then don't bring that world into mine." Looked at her for a long time. "I am trying not to." That night, Sky couldn't sleep, and Han Tae-hyun realized something that annoyed him deeply. This was no longer just about solving problems. She was now a risk, and risks, in his world, had consequences. Sky tried to pretend nothing had changed. She went back to work. She took rides. She joked with strangers. She went home and cooked and helped her mother and paid what bills she could. But her nerves were tighter. Every black car made her heart jump. Every quiet man in a suit made her look twice. She didn't like it. She didn't like what his world had done to her sense of safety, and she didn't like that she still thought about him. Han Tae-hyun did exactly what he always did when something became a risk. He increased control. He increased distance. He did not call her. He did not book her car. He did not go near her world. He told himself it was the correct decision. And for 2 weeks, he succeeded. Then someone started following her. Not obviously, not stupidly, but badly enough that she noticed. The first time, she thought she was imagining it. The second time, she changed routes. The third time, she stopped, and the car stopped too. Her heart started racing. She turned suddenly and walked into a crowded store. When she came out, the car was gone. She told herself she was being paranoid. She didn't tell anyone. 2 nights later, she was closing her door when a man spoke behind her. "Miss Williams!" She jumped and spun around. The man was tall, well-dressed, smiling. "I'm not interested," she said quickly. "I only want to talk." She reached for her phone. "Then talk to the police." "Please," he said gently. "I just have a message." "What message?" He looked around. "From Chairman Han." Her heart skipped. "He asked me to make sure you're safe." She stared at him. "You're following me." "Watching, not following. That's worse." "I apologize. It's for your protection." "I did not ask for protection." "I know." She crossed her arms. "Then tell him to stop." The man hesitated. "I will. Inform him." She didn't wait. She called Han Tae-hyun herself. He answered on the second ring. "Are you spying on me?" she demanded. There was a pause. "No. Don't lie to me. One of your men just admitted it." Another pause. "Where are you?" "At home." "Stay there." "That's not an answer." "I will handle it." She hung up, shaking. Han Tae-hyun was in his office 10 minutes later. "Who ordered this?" he asked calmly. No one answered. "Who?" he repeated. "Sent someone to watch her?" A man shifted. "Sir, it was a precaution." He turned slowly. "Without my permission?" "Yes, sir." "Leave," Tae-hyun said quietly. The room emptied. He picked up his phone. Sky was pacing when there was a knock. She froze. "Sky." His voice. She opened the door. He was there. Alone. No security in sight. "You should not be watched," he said. "No kidding. I did not order it." "But it came from your world." "Yes." She looked at him. "Then keep your world away from me." He met her eyes. "I'm trying." They stood in silence. Then she said, quieter, "Your world scares me." He nodded. "It should." "Then why are you still here?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Because you are now connected to it." Her stomach dropped. I didn't ask for that. I know. I just want a normal life. You cannot be near me and have that. She swallowed. Then go away. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, I will. And he left. 3 weeks passed. No messages, no cars, no men, nothing. Sky tried to relax. She tried to forget. She almost succeeded until the night her mother collapsed again. This time, it was worse. She called an ambulance. She rode with her. She sat in the hospital hallway with her hands shaking. The doctor came out with a grave face. We need to move her to a better facility, he said. Tonight. How much? Sky asked. He told her. Her chest went tight. She looked at her phone. She didn't want to. She really didn't want to. But she did. She called him. Han Tae-hyun answered immediately. Where are you? He asked. Hospital, she said. I know you said to stay away, but I don't know who else to call. I'm coming. When he arrived, he didn't look like a boss. He looked like a man who had been waiting for a call. He spoke to the doctors. He made arrangements. He did not argue. He did not hesitate. Sky watched him like she was watching a storm move furniture. When it was done, she said, You said you would go away. He looked at her. You called. She swallowed. I'm sorry. He said, Don't be. They stood there in silence. Then she said very quietly, I'm scared. He hesitated, then said, So am I. And for the first time, they were afraid of the same thing. Sky did not remember falling asleep. She remembered sitting in a hospital chair. She remembered staring at the floor. She remembered Han Tae-hyun standing near the window, speaking quietly into his phone, like the world obeyed him. And then everything blurred. When she woke up, it was morning. Her neck hurt, her eyes burned, and someone had put a blanket over her shoulders. She looked up. He was still there, in the same place, same calm posture, same controlled presence. You didn't leave, she said hoarsely. No, you should have. Yes, but you didn't. No. She sat up straighter. How is she? She is stable. They moved her during the night. Sky closed her eyes in relief. Then she opened them again and said, Thank you. He nodded. You're welcome. They sat in silence, the kind that wasn't angry, the kind that was just heavy. After a while, she said, You didn't have to stay. Yes, I did. Why? He looked at her. Because you were not okay. She laughed weakly, very observant. That was not sarcasm. I know. Later that day, her mother was moved to a private room. Better equipment, better nurses, better everything. Sky knew what that meant. She also knew who had made it happen. She confronted him in the hallway. You're doing it again, she said. I am making sure she is safe. You're buying things. I am paying for services. That's the same thing. No, one is emotional, one is practical. She stared at him. You always hide behind that word. Because it is accurate. She shook her head. You can't. Keep solving my life like it's a broken spreadsheet. He looked at her. Your life is not the problem. The situation is. That's not better. It is clearer. They argued quietly. In the hallway. Like two people who didn't know how to step away from each other. 2 days later, her mother improved. Not fully, but enough to breathe easier. Sky finally went home to shower and change clothes. Han Tae-hyun did not come with her. He sent a car. She didn't like that, but she was too tired to argue. When she came back the next morning, he was there again, reading something on his tablet. Do you ever work? She asked. Yes. This doesn't look like work. It is. She sat down beside her mother's bed. Her mother looked between them. You two argue like an old married couple. Sky almost choked. Mom! Tae-hyun said nothing, but his ears turned red. That afternoon, a man came to the hospital. Not one of Tae-hyun's men. This one did not look polite. He smiled too much. Chairman Han, he said. It's been a while. Tae-hyun's posture changed instantly. Leave, he said. The man looked at Sky. Who's this? Leave. Taehyun repeated. The man chuckled. Relax. I'm just saying hello. Security appeared immediately. The man left, but the air stayed heavy. Sky looked at Taehyun. Who was that? Someone who should not be here. Are there many like him? Yes, she swallowed. So this is what being near you looks like. Yes. They stood there in silence. Then she said, I don't want my mother in this. She won't be. How can you promise that? Because I will not allow it. She looked at him. That sounds like something that creates more trouble. He did not deny it. That evening, Sky sat in her car and stared at the hospital. Her phone buzzed. Message from him. You should go home and rest. She typed, I will when I'm ready. 3 dots. I will send the car. I can drive myself. I know. She sighed. When her mother was finally discharged again, Sky made a decision. I'm moving her, she said. To where? He asked. Somewhere you're not. He looked at her. That will not keep her safer. It will keep her away from your enemies. They will not touch her. You don't know that, he said quietly. I know exactly what they will and will not do. She didn't like the confidence in his voice. She also didn't like that it was probably earned. They argued again, not loudly, but seriously. Your world is not my world, she said, and yet you are already standing in it, he replied. I didn't choose that. No, but now you have to choose what you do next. She looked at him. That's not fair. He said nothing. That night, Sky stood in her kitchen and looked at her mother, sleeping on the couch. She thought about moving, about disappearing, about starting again. And she thought about the man who made problems disappear, and about the problems that followed him. Her phone buzzed, message from him. I will not force you to stay near me. She stared at the screen. Then, but if you walk away, I will not be able to protect you. She typed, that sounds like a threat. The reply came after a long pause. It is a warning. She put the phone down and realized something terrifying. There was no choice that was completely safe anymore. Han Tae-hyun stood in his apartment and looked at the city. He told himself this situation was unstable. He told himself it was inefficient. He told himself he should step back. But he also knew something else. Some problems, once seen, cannot be unseen. And Sky knew something too. Her life had already crossed a line she could not erase. Sky woke up to the sound of her mother coughing. Not the normal, weak coughing. This one was deep, wet, scary. She sat up instantly. Mom? Her mother tried to wave it off. I'm fine. Just give me a second. But she wasn't fine. Her breathing was wrong. Her skin looked wrong. Sky didn't think. She grabbed her phone and called an ambulance. The hospital swallowed them again. Bright lights, fast voices, nurses moving quickly, doctors not smiling. Sky stood in the hallway with her hands shaking. She called him. She didn't even try to pretend she wasn't afraid. She can't breathe, she said as soon as he answered. I'm coming, he said. By the time Han Tae-hyun arrived, Sky was sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. A nurse had given her water. She hadn't touched it. He crouched in front of her. Where is she? In there, Sky whispered. They won't tell me anything. He stood and spoke to the staff. Things started moving. Sky didn't care how. She only cared that someone was finally in control. Hours passed. Then a doctor came out. She's stable, he said. For now, but her heart is very weak. Sky's knees nearly gave out. For now, she asked, we need to move her to ICU and you should prepare yourself. Prepare myself for what? Sky demanded. The doctor hesitated. Han Tae-hyun said calmly, for the possibility that this will not end well. Sky stared at him, then turned away. No, she said. She's strong. She's not going anywhere. That night, Sky slept sitting up in a chair. Han Tae-hyun did not leave, not once. He spoke to doctors. He made arrangements. He made sure nothing was delayed. Sky watched him like she was watching someone hold the world together with his hands. At some point, she said quietly, you don't have to stay. Yes, I do. You keep saying that. And you keep being wrong. She almost smiled. Almost. The next morning, her mother woke up. Weak, but awake. Sky cried. Her mother touched her hand. "Don't look at me like that," she said softly. "I'm not leaving yet." Sky laughed and cried at the same time. Han Tae-hyun stood near the window, silent, watching. For 2 days, things seemed better. The doctors were careful but hopeful. Sky allowed herself to breathe. She even went home to shower. When she came back, she brought coffee. For him. "Don't get used to it," she said. He took it. "I won't." But he did. On the third night, everything changed. Sky was asleep in the chair when alarms went off. Nurses ran, doctors shouted. She stood up, heart pounding. "What's happening?" They pushed her back. "Please wait outside." She watched them close the doors. Her hands started shaking. She looked around. Han Tae-hyun was already there. He didn't say anything. He just stood beside her. Minutes felt like hours. A doctor finally came out. Sky saw his face and knew. "No," she said. "No, no, no. We're doing everything we can," he said. "But she's very weak. Her heart." "She was better," Sky said. "You said she was better." "For now," he said gently. Sky's knees buckled. Han Tae-hyun caught her. They didn't let Sky go in yet. They said it was too risky. She sat there, staring at the door like she could force it open. "She can't die," she whispered. "She's all I have." Han Tae-hyun said nothing. He didn't have words that would not be lies. Hours passed. Then another doctor came. "We need you to come in," he said. Sky stood. Her legs felt like glass. They took her to the bed. Her mother was pale. So pale, but her eyes were open. "Sky," she whispered. "I'm here," Sky said, grabbing her hand. "I'm right here." Her mother smiled weakly. "You always are." She looked at Sky for a long moment. "Don't be alone," she said quietly. Sky's throat closed. "You're not leaving." Her mother squeezed her hand. "I love you." "I love you too," Sky said. "I love you so much." Her mother closed her eyes. The machines kept beeping, but the sound was wrong. Doctors moved, nurses moved. Someone said something Sky couldn't hear. She stood there, frozen. When they finally let her out, Sky felt like she was floating, like her body was somewhere else. Han Tae-hyun was waiting. He looked at her face, and he knew. He didn't ask. He just stepped forward. And for the first time, he held her. Not briefly, not awkwardly. He held her like someone who understood that something had broken and would never be the same again. Sky didn't cry at first. She just stood there. Then she did. And she couldn't stop. Behind them, in the room. The machines were silent. Sky did not remember leaving the hospital. She remembered standing. She remembered someone putting a coat over her shoulders. She remembered the cold air hitting her face. And then everything became quiet. Too quiet. The funeral happened 3 days later. 3 days that felt like 3 minutes and 3 years at the same time. People came. People talked. People said things like, "She's in a better place and she's not suffering anymore." Sky nodded. She did not hear them. She stood beside the coffin and felt like she was watching someone else's life. Han Tae-hyun stood a little behind her, not touching, not speaking, just there. The way a wall is there. When it was over, people left. The house felt wrong. Too empty. Too quiet. Sky sat on the couch and stared at the wall. She did not cry. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She just existed. The fourth night, she finally broke. She went into her mother's room, opened the closet, saw the clothes, the shoes, the scarf her mother loved, and something inside her collapsed. She slid to the floor and screamed, not loudly, not neatly. She screamed like something had been torn out of her chest. Han Tae-hyun heard it from the living room. He stood, hesitated, then went to her. She was on the floor, shaking. He knelt and put his arms around her. She hit his chest weakly. "She's gone," she sobbed. "She's really gone." "I know," he said quietly. "There's nothing left," she cried. "There's no one left." He held her tighter. "You are still here," he said. That doesn't feel like enough. He didn't argue. He just stayed. The next days were empty. Sky forgot to pay bills, forgot to answer calls, forgot to shower. She didn't go to work. Her car sat downstairs like it belonged to someone else. One afternoon, she said suddenly, "I don't want to stay here." He looked at her. "Where do you want to go?" "I don't know. Anywhere that doesn't look like her." He nodded. "Pack." She stared at him. "I don't have anywhere to go." "You do now." He moved her, not into his home, not yet, into a quiet apartment, clean, simple, safe, close to a hospital. She didn't argue. She didn't have the energy. At night, she woke up crying. Sometimes he heard. Sometimes he didn't. When he did, he sat with her. Didn't touch. Didn't talk much. Just stayed. One evening, she said, "Why are you still here?" He answered honestly, "Because if I leave, you will disappear." She looked at him. "Maybe I want to." He said quietly, "I won't allow it." She laughed bitterly. "You don't get to control grief." "No," he said, "but I get to make sure it doesn't kill you." She got angry, at him, at the world, at her mother, at herself. "You fix everything," she shouted one night. "So fix this." He looked at her. "I can't." She broke down again. Weeks passed, slowly, painfully. One day, she went back to work. She drove. She dropped people off. She smiled a little. She came back and slept for 12 hours. It was something. One night, she said quietly, "I don't know who I am without her." He looked at her. "You will find out." "What if I don't like that person?" "Then you will build someone else." She looked at him. "You make everything sound like a war." "For me," he said, "it is." And somewhere in those quiet, heavy weeks, something changed. Not into happiness, not into love, but into dependence, and neither of them said it out loud. Han Tae-hyun realized something he did not like. He was no longer just protecting her. He was attached. And Sky realized something even more frightening. If he walked away now, she didn't know if she would survive it. Sky started waking up before her alarm again. That felt like progress. She cooked sometimes, badly. She drove again, more regularly. She still had days when she sat on the couch and stared at nothing, but they were fewer. And when they came, Han Tae-hyun did not try to fix them. He just stayed. They developed a strange routine. He came by in the evenings. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they ate in silence. Sometimes they argued about nothing. He never stayed the night. He never crossed that line. She noticed. She appreciated it more than she could explain. One night, she said, "You're scared of me." He looked at her. "That is not true." "You're scared of this," she said, gesturing between them. He didn't answer, which was an answer. She started laughing again. Not much, but sometimes. Once, she laughed at something stupid on TV and then froze. Then she looked at him and cried. "I feel guilty," she whispered, "like I'm betraying her." He said quietly, "Grief does not require you to stay broken." She leaned her head against his shoulder. He froze, then stayed still. Didn't move away, didn't move closer, just let it happen. A week later, he took her to dinner. Not somewhere fancy, somewhere quiet, normal. She looked around. "You do know how to be human." "I am learning." She smiled, but his world does not forget. One evening, as they were leaving her building, a car pulled up too fast, too close. Men got out, not his men. Everything inside him went cold. He stepped in front of her immediately. "Get back inside," he said quietly. "What now?" The men smiled. "Chairman Han," one said, "long time." Sky felt the air change. Tae-hyun said calmly, "This is not the place." "It never is," the man replied, "but you're making yourself vulnerable." Tae-hyun's eyes flicked to Sky for half a second. That was all it took. Later that night, in his car, she said, "They were talking about me." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you matter." She looked at him. "That's not comforting." No, he agreed. It's dangerous. They sat in silence. Then she said, I don't want to be a weakness. He said quietly, You already are. She flinched. Then he added, And so am I. She looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she saw how alone he was. That night, she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. She just leaned forward and did it. He froze, then pulled back slightly. We should not, he said. I know, she said. They stood there, too close, breathing the same air. Then he said, If we start this, there is no safe ending. She swallowed. Nothing in my life is safe anymore. He looked at her for a long time. Then he kissed her back, slow, careful, like a promise and a warning at the same time. They did not sleep together. They did not rush. They just stood there, holding each other, like two people who had lost too much to be careless. Later, alone, Han Tae-hyun sat in his car and closed his eyes. He had crossed a line, and in his world. Crossing a line always had a price, and Sky lay in bed staring at the ceiling, touching her lips, for the first time since her mother died. She felt something that wasn't pain, but she also knew. Peace never lasted long in his world. The price came sooner than Sky expected. It always did in his world. It started with silence. Han Tae-hyun stopped coming by. Not once, not twice, not at all. No messages, no calls, no car outside, nothing. At first, Sky told herself he was just busy. Then she told herself he was being careful. Then she told herself the truth. He was pulling away to protect her, and somehow that hurt more than if he had stayed. 3 days later, the knock came. Not polite, not gentle. She looked through the peephole and froze. 2 men. Not his men. Her heart started racing. She stepped back and called. Him. No answer. She grabbed her keys and slipped out the back door, heart pounding, and ran. Han Tae-hyun was in a meeting when his phone finally buzzed. Missed call. From her. His chest tightened. He stood immediately. Find her, he said. The room emptied. Sky didn't know where to go. She drove. She didn't think. She just drove. Until she realized a car had been behind her for too long. Her hands started shaking. She turned suddenly. They turned. She sped up. They did too. Her phone rang. His name. She answered, breathless. They're following me. Where are you? I don't know. Stay on the line. Do not stop. Do not go home. He started giving her directions. Short, sharp, clear, like a man used to war. 10 minutes later, black cars appeared. His cars. The road changed. The other car disappeared. Sky pulled over, shaking. Han Tae-hyun was out of his car before it fully stopped. He came to her door and opened it. You're hurt? He asked. She shook her head and started crying. He pulled her into his arms in front of everyone. He didn't care who saw. That night, he told her the truth. Not everything, but enough. They're not after you, he said. They're after me. You're just leverage. She looked at him. So what do we do? He was quiet, then said, You leave. Her heart dropped. What? You go somewhere far, safe.